Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Warboss Squee, bringing you to a slightly different episode than we usually do it. Reason being is that after a couple of very, very long nights, I sat down to record this episode and apparently plugged my headset into the wrong USB outlet, which means that when I uploaded the video without previewing it, because I always watch my videos before I upload them to YouTube, just make sure that there aren't any, graphical errors with the video, or with the sound, or anything like that that I can fix. Which in this case I can, because Power Director 12 is fucking awesome. I just like to check them out before I upload them, and this time I didn't. And I actually set this video to upload around midnight, 1 a.m. My wife wakes me up in the morning and says, "Honey, you don't seem to be talking a whole lot in your video." Huh, okay, so I go pull it up. There is no narration, nothing at all. Game sounds come in nice and pretty. I personally did not have a single thing of value to say for apparently an hour, which is really, really annoying. So I'm actually post-narrating this, which means that we're not only going to be talking about the game. Only because, one, I'm not in the middle of playing it, and I just don't have that... post-narration is not really my thing. It's not something I'm great at. I've got one other video, maybe two, that I did post-narration for, and in my opinion, they're not very good. You may disagree, and if you do, feel free to let me know if you disagree or not, but I don't like them. That being said, I went into this particular episode with a very specific goal, which was to break the New Republic. They had 4 worlds that needed both space battles and ground battles to fully neutralize them in their entirety. And so I decided the best thing to do was to just frickin' go at it. Don't really do a lot of scouting. Part of it was because I was tired and I was a little bit cranky. I said, it's been a very long week and very stressful week at work. But in this particular instance, I thought it would be a great idea if I just went in guns blazing and just stomped all over it, because that makes me feel better. Because, well, who doesn't like feeling better about themselves?
Crews are online.
Sorry, that was far louder than I expected it to be. Now, before we get too into the weeds with this, I do have 2 announcements to make. One is that my wife has decided to start up her own YouTube channel. Link for that will be in the description down below, assuming I remember to put the link in. And I really hope I do, because I told her I would. She doesn't want me to. She doesn't want me to mention it to any of my viewers. But there's not that many of you guys, and I don't see the harm in doing it. But she is a small one. She's playing World of Warcraft. She's playing a couple different characters. It's nothing groundbreaking, but let's be honest, what I'm doing isn't groundbreaking either. And I love her, and I actually watch her videos. I get kind of a kick out of them. It's really funny when the kids try to drag her off it, or I walk into a room and startle her, and she screams to high heavens. It's lovely. Now, that being done, this... Okay, yeah, I'm going to take a pause here. This is when they started throwing fleets at me, because this was a constant thing.
Tactical battle imminent.
And one thing I will notice, I think it's because I took all of the New Republic capital shipyards, with the exception of Mon Calamari. I didn't get Mon Cal. So, to make up the throw weight that they had lost by the inability to build as many capital ships, they decided to go with massive amounts of quasar fires. Which means that it's just fighters for days. Just massive, massive waves of fighters. A-wings, B-wings, X-wings. I didn't see any E-wings in there.
Ready for action.
But that's also a distinct possibility. Might have been some in there. The Y-wing bombers plus the B-wing bombers. It was just an utter mess. Just so many fighters were coming across the screen. All I have to do is kill the big ships, but those fighters take their toll. This isn't the part where it gets as bad, but it does start getting really nasty, and there is some screaming on my end, which obviously you guys can't hear. But trust me, it is there. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, and that was a Quasar Fire, by the way, is that I am doing this post-narration on Saturday. This video was originally filmed on Tuesday night. I think Tuesday night, Wednesday night. I'm not positive. Yeah, see, here come all those fucking fighters. Good God, there's a lot of them. But anyway, it's Saturday. I get paid on Monday. Now, I've done the math. I have some discretionary funds available. I can get a new game. Now, it's going to be one of 3 games. It's going to be Warhammer Total War. It's going to be Skyrim Special Edition, or it's going to be Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is the number 3 spot because to play it, I need to also get the DLC, which would require the Season Pass, which will be more money than I want to spend right now. So it's really Warhammer Total War or Skyrim Special Edition. And I want both of them. And at one point, I plan on having both of them. But I am leaving the option up to anyone who watches this video to leave a comment down below and tell me which game it is that you want me to get, that you want me to play. Skyrim or Warhammer Total War. If everybody says, hey, if I can do Fallout, I will fucking do Fallout. I mean, that's totally not a problem. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. But I wanted to get that out of the way. Because I've been meaning to... I have a computer that can play those games now, which is awesome. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about, since we're not focusing as heavily on the game, and as you can tell here, I'm getting beat up pretty bad, but I'm doing a lot more damage to them than they are to me. Especially since it's a lot of the little ships. The problem is I don't have a... Imperial starfighters are, with very few exceptions, inferior compared to Rebellion/New Republic fighters. I say Rebellion/New Republic because fighters like the B-Wing or the K-Wing are New Republic fighters as opposed to the A-Wing, the B-Wing, the X-Wing, and the Y-Wing that were Rebellion fighters. The E-Wing didn't get established until after, I think around the time of Admiral Thrawn or shortly after. Now, one of the things that they did in Legends was the E-Wing was going to be the new starfighter for Star Wars. The X-Wing was old, it was becoming obsolete. They were going to retire it in favor of the E-Wing. The E-Wing was a very solid fighter. It was very fast, very maneuverable, had a massive fuck-off cannon on the roof that would just blow enemy fighters right out of the sky. Could do some decent damage to capital ships, had missiles and torpedoes and all that good shit. And off they pop. Go away. The problem is that apparently nobody else got that memo. And, or maybe some upstairs meddling, but they quickly relegated the E-Wing back to the dustbin of history and just started bringing out new models of X-Wing that were exactly the same. You know, you had the Stealth X-Wing, which was basically a black X-Wing with a stealth coating on it, or the XJ5 or something, what the hell it was called. It was basically just a tuned-up engines, tuned-up weapon system, and it's a little bit more maneuverable. But Star Wars hit a real stasis point, which was kind of the problem with Star Wars and all, because in 25,000 years of Star Wars history that we've seen through the comic books and everything else, very few things have changed. Not everything has been static. There have been some improvements in interstellar travel, weapon systems, and stuff like that. But, it's just really hard to parse all that. But obviously, the key fighter for the Empire is the Defender, the TIE Defender. The TIE Defender is a very good starship. It's got a hyperdrive, first of all, which means it's not... it doesn't require a carrier ship, be it a Star Destroyer or a strike cruiser or anything like that. Or they actually do have carrier ships, which I probably ought to start building some of. Commander. So it's a lot more flexible in what it can do. It's a fighter bomber. It has heavy laser cannons on it. well, I say heavy punch laser cannons. I believe they're designated as medium laser cannons. It's got ion cannons. It's got torpedoes or missiles. I think it's missiles. It's got really powerful engines that give it a lot of maneuverability and speed, but more importantly than anything else, it has a shield generator, which means that it, like the X-Wing, can take a hit where things like the TIE Fighter, you sneeze on it and it pretty much blows up. So that's a really great starfighter. Unfortunately, it was developed late into the war. I think originally, in original canon, it went into production shortly before the Battle of Endor. They were still doing the testing on it. It hadn't gone into full production. After the Empire fell, when everything started fracturing, no one really had the support base to invest in a starfighter when you could just make TIE fighters, because they were cheaper, you could get more of them. And it went with the Imperial Doctrine that had been working up until that point. But it was pretty much the only thing. A TIE Defender and a New Republic E-Wing were pretty evenly matched. There were some pros and cons, but they were pretty good. The only other problem is that every other TIE Fighter, with the exception of like the Phantom, which has got like a little cloaking device in it, which is complete bullshit. It's an invisible ship that has to decloak the fire, has to cycle the cloaking device up again. So it decloaks, it kills a ship, if you're lucky. At which point, everybody else blows it out of the sky. Yay! And ignoring the fact that countless times we've seen in Star Wars Legends, or what I consider to be actual canon, that cloaking devices don't work that way. Or at least not all of them do. And then, of course, you have the TIE Interceptor, which is just a very, 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 very fast TIE Fighter, and the TIE Fighters themselves, none of which have any shields, no hyperdrive, no life support. You know, it's basically, it's an engine, it's a targeting system, it's weapons, and it's a chair for the pilot. That's it. It's bare bones. Does the job, though. So, and that's the problem I'm having. I do have TIE Defenders in some of my fleets, but they're getting overwhelmed by the massive amounts of actual better starfighters. It's like an X-Wing squadron versus a TIE Defender squadron. The X-Wing squadron is going to lose. If I've got 10 TIE Defenders, they've got 20 squadrons of X-Wings, plus a dozen squadrons of A-Wings, plus some Y-Wings just throwing some general bullshit into the furball, and some A-Wings that are just pirouetting around and killing everything else. Well, my fighter screens are insufficient, and I don't have the anti-fighter small ships as far as like the frigates and the light cruisers to really deal with the problem. So I get swamped. That's also the reason why you can see my frame rate dropping, because there are just so damn many of them. The downside is that there's a lot of fighters, and they can do some serious damage if they get the opportunity. The good news is that they are wasting their time killing my fighter screens, which are very easy to replace. Well, I basically shoot down their carrier ships, and I only have to kill the carrier ships to win the fight, because then they're just kind of fucked, because they're just free units. The downside is that there is an awful lot of them. Now, I have not played the New Republic, and I have not really read the New Republic's information in the manual, the PDF manual that comes for Thrawn's Revenge. But I don't know why. I don't know if it's possible if they can or not, but just to simply mass-produce fighters on their own, kind of like we can with the TIE Defender, just make up a bunch of X-Wings and a bunch of B-Wings and a bunch of Y-Wings, a bunch of A-Wings, and just throw those at me would just destroy me. Would just absolutely ruin my day. Thankfully, they don't do that. As most cases, the AI is really good at micromanaging, but not designed to be a complete dick. I will say for the record that the AI does have unlimited credits. And I know this because every single New Republic planet I have taken over, there have been very few mining facilities, no tax centers. So the Republic is just basically pulling money out of its ass to throw down on massive capital ships and waves of these little escort carriers. So I think even if they were just down to one planet and I just kept bombing out the facilities so they couldn't build anything, they'd still be able to throw MC-80Bs at me, which are freaking probably around $8,000 a pop. A little frustrating, but it's alright. But this is what most fights in this this episode are going to come down to. Us sitting here trying to kill the little guys. Yeah. So that is awesome. Now, because we have the opportunity here, we are going to talk about other things. I did mention that I don't like the new canon committee, or the new Star Wars canon. I've been watching Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. I bought it when it first came out, and I've been sitting on it, and I haven't really been watching it because I've been doing other things. Like, every time I go down and watch a new episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will come on, and I watch that show religiously just because I love to see the garbage fire on wheels that it is. It's like watching a train wreck. I mean, yeah, it's horrible. And the bodies are just heartbreaking to see the bodies, but God, when the steel hits the ground and just everything's making noise and all blown up, you can't look away. That's my opinion of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and to a degree is also my opinion of Star Wars Rebels. And that is just the exact reason is because of the fact that they did away with what is now considered Star Wars Legends. I can understand wanting to say, hey, we're going to cut out the massive amount of bloat that's been surrounding the Star Wars franchise for the last 30 years. I can understand that to a degree.
Enemy target sighted.
But at the same time, I'm looking at Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. We have Grand Admiral Thrawn, who shows up. We have Sith Inquisitors. We have the TIE Defender. We have Interdictor Cruisers. It's like, hey, remember how in Legends there was a Quarian by the name of Admiral Akbar who designed the B-Wing fighter bomber? Well, in Rebels we decided that it was still a Mon Calamari, but we're naming him Quarry. Quarry being the original design artist for Star Wars. He did a lot of concept art. And it's like, hey, that's a nice little shout out. But I'm looking at all these. I'm watching these episodes. I'm looking at this, and I'm going, wait a minute. This is plagiarism. You're literally just you've got all these things about Star Wars. You're just throwing a dart at the wall and seeing what hits. It's like, hey, what do we got? It's gonna be the TIE Defender this time, or let's bring in Red Admiral Inquisitors. We haven't stolen that yet, and technically, yeah, I know it's not stealing, but I'm sorry, Star Wars Rebels and the new Star Wars canon. If you piss far, it's because you stand on the shoulders of giants. You know, you're writers and creators, so maybe try and fucking create something. It's like, oh my god, they had this in this episode. Yes, they did. They had that thing that everybody wanted them to bring in. And they get to say, oh, we're such great people because we brought this thing in. But you didn't really create anything. It's like me doing a painting of the Mona Lisa, but I've got her in hipster jeans and a freaking scarf. Okay, great. Yeah, it's my version of it, but it's not really mine. I'm just taking what somebody else has done and just co-opting it, for lack of a better term. And Rebels is just full of it. And that's really the problem I'm having with Star Wars at the moment in general. The Force Awakens was not a bad movie. Okay, I'm just going to throw that in. It was not a bad movie. I love all the Star Wars movies, even the prequels. I mean, Episode 1 is entirely forgettable. It's completely self-contained. You can skip that movie and still know everything there is that you need to know by watching the other movies. It's self-contained. It doesn't really affect anything other than the fact of, hey, where did they find Anakin? On a little dirt ball of a planet where he was a slave. Okay, great. Moving on. You know, it's very not important to the overall plot as a whole. And even that movie I love. Just the music is great. Some of the combat scenes are great. The dialogue is holy shit. But that's true of pretty much every single Star Wars film. I mean, even the cartoons aren't getting away from that too much.
Direct all fire on the shield
But
generator.
the only movie that's really innovated as far, or not even the only movie, the only thing that really has innovated was Rogue One. And even then, I look to Clone Wars and say, well, Clone Wars did that quite a few times. And they're not breaking any real new ground there. It's like, hey, a war story, it's a dark war story where a lot of people die. And people make questionable decisions in pursuit of what they think is right. Yeah, I've got 5 seasons of that on DVD sitting on my shelf right now.
Primary engine system is down.
I mean, Jesus, come on.
Attacking.
Our shields are down.
And I mean, The Force Awakens was so busy trying to say, hey,
Our primary drive
like us because we're just like the Star Wars that you grew up with. It failed to establish its own identity. Also, I think the characters were really annoying. I love Poe Dameron. I really, really liked Finn. Although, and this is probably a video for another time if I get off my ass to stop being lazy and doing it. The Finn that we get in Force Awakens should not act the way he does. He was taken as a very small child, probably around the ages of 3 and 4, and he was raised in a military environment where it was literally train, discipline. The complete crushing of your sense of self. You are part of the machine. You will fight. You will die. You will kill in the name of the Empire, or in this case, the First Order. That's not the Finn we get, where he's scared and nervous and constantly on the back foot. What we should be getting is Finn in the vein of, I don't know, say Kurt Russell from Soldier. Very clipped speech patterns, not a very expressive face. Absolutely lethal in every single fight he gets in. He should be a killing machine. And he should be very, very heedless about the risks. Everybody else is taking fire. Finn should be the guy standing there taking precision shots and blowing people's heads off, because that's what he does. Casualties don't matter. Only the mission matters. And if we're going to say that for some odd reason, all that indoctrination, all that conditioning, all that training just didn't take. For whatever reason, the guy isn't like freaking 22 years old. He's been let's call it what it is, a slave of the First Orders for nigh on 20 years. He's never seen combat. Does the First Order have the luxury of saying, you know what, we're not going to send this guy to go fight? He's more useful scrubbing walls and mopping floors.
Our main shields are out.
Commencing attack.
I don't see it. They've got... We don't even really get a good example of what kind of resources the First Order is working with to begin with, but I still just don't think that's a possibility. So they really, really had a missed opportunity with that. Rey... A lot of people say Rey was whiny. And I say, compared to who? Compared to Luke? Compared to frickin' Anakin? I mean, God... I mean, Padme and Leia were plenty whiny in their own points too. I mean, every character in that show, in the franchise, has a moment of whine. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi. Good Lord. My problem is that she...
We've lost the iron cannons.
You know, Anakin had to be talked into using his powers. He had to be guided. You know, he's the chosen one, but he couldn't use his powers. He was doing it on a bit of a Yeah, this is where I had to jump out, because just look at all these damn fighters.
System is down.
Just too many. And very little actually gets out. Anyway,
Our engines are gone, sir.
I mean, Anakin had Qui-Gon Jinn trying to give him a few pointers to relax him, to get him in touch with the living force so that he could augment himself in little ways, basically getting his reflexes going and stuff like that.
Crews are online.
Luke, being the complete dirt farming clod that he is, wasn't even capable of doing that, because Anakin was already slightly using the Force in small ways to improve his odds at doing things like pod racing, which
Reporting in.
was friggin' amazing.
Moving to coordinates.
I would actually love to see additional kinds of sporting events in Star Wars, but that's a thing for another time. Luke, after probably a couple hours, maybe a day or two, depending on how long it takes, of coaching from Obi-Wan, can block a couple of stun blasters, which is really impressive,
Vehicle in production.
but also is in the position of making that 1 in a million shot. That's all he can really do. And over the years that lead from, and I think it is years that lead from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, he's able then to do some additional things. You know, he can move an object with his mind, although it takes extreme concentration. I'm pretty sure hanging upside down for a couple hours and the concussion being smashed into a head by a Wampa probably didn't help, but still, extreme concentration to move an object.
Roger that.
And it's not until he gets to Yoda where he actually is able to fight with a lightsaber.
Destroy.
He's stronger, he's faster, he can use the Force, he has a deeper understanding of what the Force is.
Reporting.
And then we get to Rey,
Engines
who doesn't have a deeper understanding of the Force,
There they are.
and isn't entirely sure about what the Force is. Nobody apparently knows.
setting up.
I mean, the First Order has apparently an entire division of stormtroopers specifically designed to fight people in melee combat with lightsabers, and they don't fucking know what the Force is about. Bunch of pokes. But she doesn't need any guidance. She doesn't need any training or any explanation. She just does it. She sees something. It's monkey see, monkey do, and she can just pull amazing feats of force heroics out of her ass. That it took fully trained Luke, or at least as fully trained as he got, fully trained Anakin, fully trained Obi-Wan Kenobi to pull off. She is literally the best thing that's ever happened to Star Wars. She is probably one of the best pilots I've ever seen on screen.
Bombs deployed.
Exceptionally powerful and exceptionally gifted with the Force. Lightsaber combat, hand-to-hand combat, mechanics. If you cloned her, you wouldn't need another character in the Rebellion. She could handle it all. Ridiculous. But and that's not a horrible criticism. I'm not saying that she's a Mary Sue or anything like that, and I do realize I'm rambling a bit. But we're finally getting to the point where I can start using my TIE Defenders to start nuking this place like it deserves to be nuked, so it's kind of nice.
Taking them out. I'm hit.
And then,
Engaging the enemy.
but hers is really the only personality that stands out. She's, I wouldn't say feisty. Oh, and I will point out this is the first time, as far as I can remember, that we've actually had a secondary fleet jump into an engagement zone while I've been attacked or defending a planet before. And the red, I think, is Imperial Warlords.
Star Destroyer standing by. Star Destroyer reporting in. Yes, Commander.
But it doesn't really matter because the New Republic is hyperspacing out, which means that they're jumping out, and as soon as one of the forces jumps out, that is the end of the battle. So these guys coming in to get some work done is ultimately fruitless. Which is actually kind of disappointing, and I do wish that if you had a secondary force jump in, you'd actually have to finish them off. But I can also understand why that's not a thing, because those were the Imperial Warlords, there are no planets I can take. I can't hurt their production or their income at all, so they would just constantly continue to be a pain in my ass.
Crews are online.
So we've got Bothwai, and yes, I'm shifting gears. I do that.
Awaiting your command.
Now we need to get this planet right here, and I can't tell you what this planet is because I can't see it. Oh no, are we going for Solus right now? I don't remember which one I went for.
Crews are online.
Okay, yeah, I just made the decision to jump right into Solus, which, in hindsight, probably was a bad idea. They were shifting some forces over, and I think they came from, not Bothwai, but the planet between Bothwai and Solus. Chardan, maybe? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Awaiting your orders.
But unfortunately, I put myself in a position where I could get hit by two planets simultaneously instead of just jumping from one point to the other. Go away, you. So that was not my brightest moment.
Awaiting your
Although, to be
command.
fair, it's something I do on occasion.
The enemy is approaching.
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of fighters. The title of this episode, if you actually saw it for like the entire hour or so that it was actually live, before I pulled it back down, was "Oh my, so many fighters."
Your order, sir.
No, actually, no, it was "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead," which, to be fair, was also a very, very good title, in my opinion.
Open fire.
Get out of there.
Shield's almost gone.
So, and that is always nice.
Roger that.
But unfortunately, I don't know if it was because I was tired or not. I was making a lot of mistakes, and I wasn't properly setting up my fleets to the positions that I needed them to be,
Destroyer here.
and I wasn't reinforcing them with the right kind of ships. As much as I love the strike cruisers and the Imperial 2 Star Destroyers, I needed some more lighter units for anti-fighter work, and I wasn't making them. Which bites me in the ass. Quite a bit.
Pursuing enemy
Attacking
forces.
target.
Oh, God, I just forgot what my point was.
Taking him out. He's headed your direction.
Now, trying to think here. I think after this I go after...
Fire at will.
I take the planet in between Bothwai and Solus. Now, Solus was a big, important world to take because it does house a capital shipyard, if I remember correctly. Which is an exceptionally big deal because that gives me more worlds where I can build capital ships at. The problem is that these little blockade runners that are pulling such good anti-fighter work right now are so close to that goal and defense platform that I cannot actually target them directly. I'm just having to hope that some of my my general shooting in this general direction manages to get something done. Sorry, getting a little dry. And go figure, 33 minutes of non-stop talking can make a fella a little thirsty. But I am really glad that I didn't like it originally, but the Thrawn's Revenge changed where missiles and torpedoes impact on your shields, and you have to actually drop a ship's shields before you start impacting the hull. I was not originally a giant fan of that. Having been hit with massive waves of bombers, I am more so in favor of that. One, because it gives a little bit of survivability so you can actually kill the bastards. It really helps out the New Republic because they tend to be high shield,
The lasers
low
are
hull.
our target.
So it's good for everybody, in my opinion. I'm really glad they did it.
Target priority is the laser.
But yeah, it's just these little ships that just I can't really focus down on them because they're really hard to target. Even if I pause it and zoom in, like the blockade runners are just too tiny.
Our target priority is the laser panels.
But see what we got going on here. And this defensive platform is about to go down. Come on, scroll down a little bit, Warboss. There we go. There's another defensive platform that's not going to be too much of a problem. And there is the capital shipyard, which... that thing's just a freaking brick. And it occasionally starts spawning ships. I probably lose more ships trying to kill this thing than anything else, just because the constant fighters and the ships it spits out while I'm focusing down the shipyard.
I'm on this one.
Yeah, I really think my next playthrough is going to be with the New Republic, just so I can try out some of their units.
The lasers are our target.
Watch him. He's coming around. Where are the others?
Our target priority is the laser cannons.
Returning to your position.
Direct fire.
One of the things that did disappoint me early on was I lost all my heroes, with the exception of Izard and the Lukansa. Probably not saying it right. I have to look at the actual name of the ship, look up the ship.
Lasers are our target.
But you don't have it. Your heroes don't do anything. They don't like give you a bonus on ground combat. They don't give you a bonus in space combat, and it doesn't look like any of them actually give you any discounts, with the exception of Izard. And of course, to be completely honest, if I had a Super Star Destroyer in orbit, I'm fairly sure you'd give me the things I want for cheap too.
Awaiting orders. Our target priority is the laser cannons.
But yeah, it's just constantly trying to hammer down these little ships. And of course, the fighters are just swarming me, and for some odd reason, I can't get the fighters to really do what I want. Because if I tell them to kill one of the X-Wings, they'll kill the X-Wing, and then just fucking sit there. Tell them to hunt for targets, they go after the biggest thing on the planet, which is the MC-80B right now. They're not doing a really great job of going, I need to kill enemy fighters. I really wish that hunt for... hunt for enemies was hunt for enemy fighters. But to be fair, it does work a lot better than it did in the base vanilla game, where you tell them to hunt for enemies and they just fly off to random corner of the maps and sit there with their thumbs up their ass. So,
Awaiting your command.
benefit to that, I suppose.
He's headed your direction.
The lasers are our target.
All right, let's see.
Attack that target.
Now, as far as the whole thing with Legends versus canon, if anybody who's still watching at this point, if you want me to dedicate a video solely to that, I will attempt to do so. I am still working on the lore video for Izard.
The shield on holding.
The reason that's actually taken so long is that I was trying to learn how to use the editing software so I could actually do narration. Post-narration specifically, exactly like what I'm doing right here. So now that I know how to do this, I can start working on that video. And it's still going to take time. I work a minimum of 40 hours a week. I've got 2 kids. And I still need to find time to actually have a modicum of a social life. So, you know, if I did this for a living, I'm sure that would be different. But I don't do this for a living. And to be completely honest, I don't want to.
The lasers are our target.
You know, I know the goal of every YouTuber is to make a lot of money and be popular. And I don't mind being popular. Wouldn't mind making a little bit of income into this. But I need to have a job where I go out and I interact with other people, or I'm just going to go insane. If my job involved me staying at home,
Those torpedo launchers must be destroyed.
No. I would go utterly insane. I would be Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
Fire.
And there is absolutely no way in hell that would ever be considered a good thing. Sorry. Alright, so
Our lasers are in off.
the 2 golden defense platforms are down. We're working on getting some of those fires out. I am still taking losses. That assault frigate's about toast. I hit it with the tractor beam just for shits and giggles in case it tried to pull away to recharge its shields. I really didn't want that to be a thing I had to deal with later on. And it's not that would be a giant threat, it was just going to be an annoyance. Now the good news is that the fighters have thinned out enough that they're not able to do as much damage as they might otherwise, but they are still able to do enough damage. Like I just lost a Lancer frigate right there.
Target priority is the laser cannons.
and the shipyard is still capable of pumping out more ships. Unfortunately, the ships I currently have, I do have a single Lancer frigate left. It's not capable of taking out the rest of these X-Wings. I don't really have much in the way of additional fighters coming out. My fighter bays are pretty depleted at this point. And I can't really throw enough precision fire to kill those little bastards. So, and I think this is the last ship. Okay. Do they actually retreat, or do I kill this thing and end the game? Okay. I don't know why the ships generated by the shipyard actually had to be destroyed to win the battle. With my guys, the free units don't count towards fleet cap, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, I took some nasty losses on that. But now the route to Endor is available. Oh, Kothis. That's the name of the planet. I can finally see it clearly. Kothis. Kothis doesn't have anything in orbit except its defense platforms and its shipyard. Because the ships it made, it sent to Sullust, I think.
Tactical battle imminent.
Now, I could have just auto-resolved this, and I'm sure it would have been fine. Oh my god, is there a way for sarcasm to actually be a thing? I might actually put a sarcasm thing up on the screen right at that point. Because I actually decided to auto-resolve a battle after the video was over. Just for shits and giggles, it was going to be a land invasion. They had one barracks on the planet. They had one unit of infantry. I sent down a force that was 5 AT-AT walkers. 3 or 4 of the good tanks, the TIE crawlers, plus some of the repulsor tanks, the name of which escapes me at the moment. Plus about 20 units of stormtroopers, all of the Nova troopers, and a couple of the transports, along with some of the anti-personnel walkers and some scout walkers. Might have had some scout bikers in there too. I lost everything and the battle. I'm sorry, what? How does one unit of infantry cause that kind of trouble? If I just landed one walker on that planet, he could have walked through and just killed everything for me. Now, this was something that caught me by surprise. I couldn't figure out where all my fighters were going. They're hunting for enemies, and as they're doing that, they're hitting the edge of the nebula. The nebula is canceling out their special ability, and so they're just sitting there. I've never run into that problem as far as I'm aware. And it was rather a unique problem to have, and I actually kind of liked it. It was different. I'm not saying I want to deal with that all the time, but it was still fairly inventive of how do we make this battle a little bit more interesting.
My scopes are jammed. I've been hit.
Now the good news is that there are fighters on this map, but
Engines are malfunctioning.
there is really nothing I need to worry about. It's the defensive platforms
Shields almost gone.
is it.
I'll take care of this.
So I don't really have too much to fear. The longest thing is getting my capital ships into play because I didn't designate a fleet commander, which is a mistake I've made in the past and will continue to make in the future. I guarantee it. I know me. I am occasionally a very, very slow learner. So, now the good news is that the defenders are doing more than a good enough job. I think that if I had just sent enough defenders, I could have wrapped up this entire battle very quickly.
Pursuing enemy forces. Where'd he go? I'm hit. We're being targeted. Squad, move in.
All right, okay, yeah. Now my capital ships are getting into play. I believe I have a interdictor Star Destroyer in this fleet. Which I can't be positive. I don't know the numbers, but I think it might actually be more powerful than the Imperial Star Destroyer 2. It's certainly bigger, and it costs more money. I don't know if that actually translates into a better ship. I'm assuming with heavier armor and whatnot, it would actually prove to be the case, but I don't know.
Roger that.
Alright, so a couple of squadrons of X-Wings on the board. We're going to get those wiped up. The Y-Wings are actually the easiest thing to kill. You can kill them with TIE fighters, but they can do some nasty work. There's one defensive platform left, but it's getting just brutally beaten on. I do have an immobilizer 416, I believe it is. I brought that specifically because it was the only ship of the interdictor class that had the anti-missile defense. The interdictor Star Destroyer doesn't have anti-missile. It has boost power to weapons, and it has, of course, the gravity well generator. The gravity well generator is a necessity if it's going to be an interdictor. I don't really understand the choice of... Sorry, long night, a little tired. I don't really see the point of having the boost divert power to weapons special ability as opposed to the anti-missile ability. Only because it's a trade-off in defense versus offense. But if you notice, I don't ever really use
Right away.
divert power to the weapons because it drops. It's supposed to slow your engine power.
Nebulon B frigate here.
Nebulon B frigate here.
Acknowledged.
I think that must have been my imagination. I'm sure I didn't just hear that. But it cuts your engine power by half, and it slows the rate of your shield regeneration, which means if your shields get damaged, it's supposed to take longer for it to come back. What it actually does is that it cuts your engine power by half and cuts your current shield rating by half. Now, the Empire are not all about their most powerful defensive shields. They're more about being able to take a hit and just punching right back twice as hard. But having those shields is nice. You want to have the shields because, well, that stops your very lovely armor and gun emplacements from being blown off your ship and, you know, putting large holes in it, which will ultimately make you explode. Because none of us want to explode today. Alright, so... well, we have been so busy down on the southern rim, if the four cardinal directions can actually apply to a flat representation of a 3D star map. Maybe? I don't know.
Crews are online.
The Pentastar alignment has actually been getting their shit together up north. Now, we should be hearing from them soon, but in the meantime, we need to build our ground forces because we need to take some ground... we need to do some ground battles. I don't... what are those tanks called? I can't remember. They're not saber tanks. The Republic has saber tanks. Which is really funny because we actually saw a saber tank in Rogue One, and it was on the side of the Imperials.
Awaiting your command.
So that's...
Enemy fleet approaching.
I copy.
Alright, is this one going where I think it is?
Reporting.
Tactical battle.
That would be going where I think it is. Alright. Alrighty. Space battle at Ord Mantell. Planet's been fought over so many times it's not even funny. I have literally lost so many ships and destroyed so many ships in orbit of this world there should be a permanent debris cloud surrounding it. Now, I did something very stupid.
In progress.
And I'll give you a second to look at the map and see if you can tell me what it is. Alright. If you can tell by how my forces are aligned and everything like that, I don't have any real heavy ships. I've got
Hypervelocity cannon firing.
Izard and the Lufthansa. I've got 2 Star Destroyers. I believe I think they're Imperial 2s, but they might be Victories.
Attack that target.
I've got some TIE Defenders. I figured this would be heavy enough to deal with anything that might come into play, because I have the Hypervelocity Cannon. I've got 2 of those, so the cooldown speed is pretty good. And of course, I've got the defensive platforms.
Target.
Or at least I should say, I had the defensive platforms.
Upgrade complete.
I might have forgotten to rebuild them after the last time I got chased out of the system.
Fire at
there are no Golan defense platforms in orbit.
Hussein Assad here.
It is literally
Our
just
target priority is the laser cannons.
2 piddly little Star Destroyers, 1 Super Star Destroyer, and a hypervelocity gun. And these little ships aren't really, I shouldn't even have bothered them with the hypervelocity gun. There are bigger, better targets coming in out of warp, or hyperspace, I don't know, I said warp. I guess I'm watching Star Trek. Those being the Praetor 2 battle cruisers, which
Attacking.
Madam Director Assad.
you can field 2 of the Praetor 2 battle cruisers for every Super Star Destroyer.
Excellent shot.
Super Star Destroyer is 15
Awaiting orders.
fleet points.
Target the lasers.
A Praetor 2 battle cruiser is 9. And
Taking
if I
note.
had to
Intercepting.
assume, and this is an
At your
assumption,
command.
I would say that pound for pound, the Praetor 2 is actually probably the better ship of the 2.
I copy.
Upgrade complete.
And it's not a fault of the Super Star Destroyer, and it's not even a fault of the mod authors. It's a limitation on what they can actually do with the game engine.
Is the laser cannons.
The Super Star Destroyer is just this bulky bitch.
Copy.
It doesn't like to move where you want it to. It doesn't like to bring all its weapon systems to bear. It's just there. You do the
Madam
best you
Director
can.
Assad here.
Somebody strapped a freaking jet engine to a brick and just lobbed it at something, hoping to hit it.
I would.
If it hits, it's gonna hurt like a son of a bitch. But trying to get in the position to actually hit something is a little on the difficult
Those
side.
laser banks are the primary target.
So what I should have been doing was using my hypervelocity gun to keep blowing up these damn Praetors. I can't kill one in one shot, or even 4 or 5 shots, but I could at least soften them up enough that we could start taking them apart with the
Watch for enemy ships.
Lucancia. Unfortunately, I thought it would be funnier to go after the little ships, blow those up, let the Lucancia handle the battle cruisers, and it would all be fine and dandy.
We'll
But
be there shortly.
Returning to your
Star
position.
Destroyer reporting in.
they have 3
Madam
battle
Director
cruisers
Assad here.
in this fleet that they've brought in so far.
Closing on target.
And while it may not have a lot of shields,
Direct fire
although their
on the
shield
enemy.
regeneration is pretty good, it does have a massive amount of hard points and armor. Which means that killing one of these things, even with the Super Star Destroyer, even if you're wedge on and you're firing both the port and starboard weapon systems into it continuously non-stop,
Fire engines are not functioning.
it still takes a very, very long time to kill one of these damn things.
Commander, they're hitting us.
If ever I wanted an Eclipse class Super Star Destroyer, now would be the time, because they just one-shot blow one of these things away.
Hussein Assad here.
Narrowing
The
position.
lasers are our target.
I mean, look at this. Just the full force of that Super Star Destroyer is punching onto that battle cruiser, and it's kind of scratching the paint. I mean,
Decoding transmission.
not to a great degree.
Nowhere to run. Tightening up. You're being targeted.
Now, the good news is that the two Star Destroyers I do have in reserves
Target the lasers.
are in a position to draw fire.
Under control.
Yeah, see, that thing is still going.
Move in.
It is getting
Madam Director Assad.
all the firepower into it,
Watch him. He's coming around.
and it is just still kicking on. That is really fucking annoying.
Direct all fire
They
on the
will be
shield
my
generators.
slaves.
And unfortunately, we also have to listen to her every time I target something, which is just very annoying. And these little guys, they're not really a threat. I should have focused on the bigger ships and then just cleaned up the little guys later, but
Blasted scum.
I wasn't thinking about that
Scopes are jammed.
the way I should have, I think.
I'll take care of this. I've got him.
Of course, the big problem I have is that if I'd had my customary fleet of 4 or 5 Imperial 2s, plus strike cruisers and defenders,
Firing.
I probably would have lost this fight.
Where are the others? Eliminating target. Getting a lot.
And hey, spoiler alert, I do lose this fight. And I lose this fight not because I'm outclassed,
Hussein
but because I'm
Assad.
stubborn and I'm stupid and I don't know when to quit.
Our target priority is the laser cannons.
Also splitting my fire. I should have concentrated on the big ships
Our
and
primary
worried about the little ships later, but I kept getting distracted. Like, oh, I can take this out real quick.
target priority is the laser.
All I'm doing is that every 9 points worth of ships I'm taking out of this fleet allows them to bring in yet another battle cruiser. So at one point, I think there's like 3 or 4 of the damn things flying around.
Madam Director Azard here.
Now my shields are about gone. When I was in about half health, I should have just jumped out.
Lasers are our target.
And it was a dumb move on my part.
Awaiting orders. Our target priority
Yeah,
is
that's an Imperial. I think that's an Imperial Star Destroyer. It's an Imperial too. I can't tell, and I don't want to rewind. I don't know how well that would work in this particular situation.
our shield
Regardless, it's not great. Yeah, I'm still working on that one battle cruiser.
are our target. Our target priority is the laser cannons.
And congratulations, he is now finally dead. I am starting to take hull damage and starting to lose some weapon emplacements at this point, I believe.
Destroyed.
And what happens? They just bring in another battle cruiser. I don't know how much the battle cruiser is going for. Probably about 10,000-12,000, but still cheaper.
Our target priority is the laser cannons.
I will break you.
He's coming around.
So
Returning to your position.
yeah, I actually had to pull the defenders back here to start defending the shipyard because I was losing that.
Awaiting your orders.
Just because the
Getting a lock.
little fighters are just, I have no anti-fighter support here. I should have stationed some more ships with her, but I figured it's a Super Star Destroyer. I've killed all the Pentastar Alignment's heroes. I mean, how much trouble can they
Madam
really cause
Director
me?
Azard here.
Well, it turns out I may have killed their leader's ship. They still got plenty of guns to throw at me.
Available.
Engaging the enemy. Eliminating target. I'm on this.
I also had a problem that for a while there, I couldn't get my hypervelocity cannon to target.
Watch him. He's coming around.
I kept trying to target a ship with it, and it kept not
Hussein Azard here.
not going. But it's in cooldown.
Direct fire.
Never actually fired.
The stragglers. Target.
The game is actually trying to tell me to pick a target right here, and for some odd reason, it wouldn't let me, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. So that was a trifle on the annoying side.
Your command, sir.
Honestly, I should have just called it quits here. Brought back a better fleet than come back in after it again, but
Are our target.
partially I was tired and I just really wanted to get this fight over with.
Madam Director Azard.
Part of it was just my natural amount of stubbornness.
Destroy the
The other part is I really don't like this
fire
woman.
on the engines.
Azanasard, which I will detail in the lore video. Promise, I'm going to get to that point.
Is the laser cannons.
Hopefully by the end of the month I should have it out. Wife and kids are going to Montana to go visit her brother, so I'm going to have a couple of days of peace and quiet. I'll probably try to get some work done then.
Laser cannons.
Closing on
But
target.
I really don't like this woman.
Targeted. Regroup for
And I had considered before just kamikazing her into enemy systems and seeing how long it took to kill her. I didn't do that because I didn't think it'd be a very fun game.
Our target priority is the laser.
And losing Azard at this point does not actually progress the era system to bring in Grand Admiral Thrawn and Galad Paleon. Reason being is that this is a specific galactic campaign map specifically about her and that particular era.
Attacking target.
So we will be Era 1 regardless of whether she lives or dies.
Our target.
taking them out. Engaging the enemy.
Our target priority is the
And seeing as how I have other Super Star Destroyers, the only things that she really brings me that's useful is a discount
Hussein Azard here.
on my ships.
They will be my slave.
Which, again, was not something I was using to very great effect because I had her stuck out on the front line. I should have had a non-hero Super Star Destroyer in her place and then put Azard back on Kuwait to double dip onto that discount for my ships. Would have helped me build my fleets a lot faster.
Gun available.
So I mismanaged using her in every possible way you could.
They've taken out our launch bay.
So, you know, what's going to happen here is not that great of a surprise. It's really not.
Our primary engine system is down. Form up.
Now,
Destroyer.
I will say that I did take out a massive amount of enemy ships here. It was not worth
Intercepting.
the loss of the
Madam Director
Lazanka.
Zard here.
The lasers are our target.
Coming around.
You won't be around much longer. I'll take care of this.
Now, the thing that I don't understand is that the Praetor 2 battlecruiser, I mean, it's not really a battlecruiser, it's a dreadnought.
Offline.
If we want to go by Jane's ships of the world, or in this case, Jane's ships of the galaxy, it would be a dreadnought class ship.
Is the laser cannons.
Because the way it works is that you have your frigates, your starfighters, your frigates, your destroyers, your light cruisers, your heavy cruisers, your battle cruisers, your battleships, your dreadnoughts, and then your super dreadnoughts. Something like the Super Star Destroyer would be a super dreadnought. A Star Destroyer or an Imperial Star Destroyer or an Imperial 2 Star Destroyer would be considered a battleship, and something like the Praetor 2 battle cruiser would be considered a dreadnought. They don't classify them like
Madam
that,
Director Zard.
though. The point being is that the Star Destroyer
Our target priority
is considered to be a better ship than the Praetor 2 battle cruiser.
The lasers are our target.
It says that it sacrifices, I guess, fighter complement or something, but to be completely honest, it doesn't really need it.
Taking fire.
It's got heavier shields, it's got heavier armor, it's got more and more powerful
The
guns
lasers are our target.
than even an Imperial 2. There's no reason.
Your position.
Commander, they're hitting us.
Ugh. Sorry, that was a very big yawn. There's absolutely no reason, in my opinion, why you would field an Imperial 2 when you could field a Praetor.
Back around for another run. Nowhere to go.
Now, it could be a cost issue. We do know that the Empire, and Palpatine specifically, was trying to field the largest space and ground force ever seen in the galaxy. I'm sorry, 25,000 Star Destroyers.
Banks are the primary
The
target.
Super Star Destroyers, the 6 that were built, were just a test bed, and there were other designs for that, as well as more that were going to be put into production. God only knows how many hundreds of millions of soldiers under arms, everything from the stormtroopers to the Imperial Army to armor divisions and TIE pilots and everything else.
Away.
I mean, what he was building that massive
Madam
fleet
Director
for,
Zard here.
massive fleet and ground force for, is up to debate.
The lasers are our target.
He didn't really need all that stuff. Once you have control of the galaxy, you don't have to keep building weapons.
Annihilate.
But I think he at one point planned on conquering the rest of the galaxy. Because the
Lasers are our target.
Galactic Empire is about 55% of the galaxy as a whole. Now, a lot of people said, oh, it was the Yuzon Vong. He knew about the Yuzon Vong. He was going to come in, and they were going to come in, and he was going to fight them off. And that was why he did all this. That was his version of the Great Sith plan, was to build up this giant navy, this giant
Madam
army,
Director
and
Zard
the
here.
Marines and everything else. And he was going to fight off the Yuzon Vong. He was going to be a hero. Well, the Sith didn't know about the Yuzon Vong. Nobody knew about the Yuzon Vong.
The lasers are our target.
And I don't see Palpatine actually caring enough to do that. He just doesn't strike me as an altruistic person. He might do it to save his own planets. But I don't think... how's he finding out about it? Is the Force telling him? Because the Yuzon Vong
Madam Director Zard.
they're not active in the Force. You can't predict them with
Target priority is the laser.
Force visions.
Engaging the enemy.
So I think that was just a
Under control.
The lasers
just a way of putting it. But I think it was to conquer the other
Will be my slave.
45% of the galaxy.
Getting a lock.
The lasers are our target.
But even then, I mean, the Praetors were
Priority is the laser.
they were a better ship. And Luscania is about to go pop.
Taking a shot.
Space station under attack.
Engaging the enemy. You won't be around much longer. We're being targeted.
Hussein Assad here.
Take out the Iron Planet. The lasers are our target.
Enemies
Our target priority is the
My
laser
scopes are
cannons.
jammed. I'm on them.
Annihilate.
The lasers are our target.
I will
Can't
break
switch
you.
position.
Yeah, I've lost all the starboard guns. I've only got the aft port guns left on the Luskansa. So
Madam Director is
at
on.
this point, at the very least, I should have just jumped out.
Hussein Assad here.
Our target
But-
priority is the laser cannons.
I was like, you know what? Just take as many with me as I can. Especially once you get down here and you notice that, oh, look, there's a bunch of immobilizers just can't leave. Got to kill those first. Can't kill them, though.
The lasers are our target. The lasers have been destroyed.
And there it goes. Right about the point where I decided I needed to pull out was the point where I realized I couldn't.
Velocity gun available.
So, did we inflict massive casualties on the enemy? Yes, we did. Were they reasonable considering our own casualties? I don't think so. Was it satisfying to watch Azane Azard explode all over the map? Fuck! Yes, it was.
Tactical battle imminent.
Now, downside is now that they're going to invade the planet,
Velocity gun destroyed.
and I have to put together a fleet and go take them back.
Crews are online.
Which actually, in this particular case, wasn't that difficult. It's not like they had a, say, Dark Sith Lord on the ground that could be a pain in my ass. But at the same time, it wasn't exactly a
Reporting.
fun little
Star
cakewalk.
Destroyer reporting in.
Coordinates received.
Confirmed.
I think what I really need to do is I need to build some of every kind of ground
Heading
unit.
out.
Put something on the ground, scout out,
Tactical battle
and
imminent.
then tailor my deployments to
Look,
what's the
sir,
word?
it's
To
down.
complement that. You know, if they have
I copy.
flying transports
Right away.
or scouts, bring down some anti-air walkers. If it's a lot of infantry, maybe some more anti-personnel walkers. If I'm not really sure, just drop 5 frickin' 5 AT-ATs and go from there.
Star Destroyer standing by.
Still don't know what to do about the turbo laser towers. The last set really tore me a new one, but
Star Destroyer reporting in.
yeah, I wasn't having anything in this fight.
Gone. Cover me now. Draw their fire.
I did get fairly lucky is that most of the heavy ships had already left. They just left a little garrison force here.
Coming around.
Fire at will.
And do keep in mind, I have fast forwarded this part of the battle. I actually did hit the actual fast forward button on the game. I'm not fast forwarding it through editing. Which obviously you can guys probably tell because you can still hear the sounds from the game and the voice acting and stuff like that. There's no heavy ships in this deployment zone. This still takes a massively long time.
Our
It's
target
very,
priority
very
is the
frustrating.
laser cannons.
Now, I need to figure out a way that I can actually fast forward things on this end. If I could, I would actually spare you having to sit through this. I don't know how to do that yet.
Lasers are our target.
I'm figuring it out. We're not there yet. But yeah.
Our target priority is the laser cannon.
Yeah, that's an Imperial Star Destroyer. They've got a Magnificent... I think that's a battle cruiser. A Magnificent battle cruiser is what it's rated as.
Back around for another run.
Which is just ridiculous.
Sir,
Awaiting
I've
orders.
got him.
Return to your position. Target critical.
Getting a lock. Commander, they're hitting us.
Destroy
I'll
the
take care of
engines.
this.
I got him.
Let's see here.
He's about to be destroyed. Getting a lock.
Intercepting.
Direct fire on the engines.
Now, the good news is that they're not battle cruisers, so even the Imperial Star Destroyer pops fairly quickly.
Engaging the enemy.
It's mostly just
Your direction.
the little ships that are going to give me problems. Mostly because I can't catch them.
Get behind them.
I'm on
And if I could have brought the Star Destroyer in closer,
Returning
that would have been nice, and that way I wouldn't have had to spend all that time flying across the map.
getting a lock.
Because again, this is the part where the Super Star Destroyer decides that it doesn't want to play ball, and it doesn't want to stay nose on target and direct as much firepower as possible.
Fallout.
I'm also getting swarmed by fighters, which just drive me absolutely bonkers.
Taking him out. Watch your back. Intercepting. Nowhere to engaging the enemy. Watch for enemy ships. Enemies in range. I'm on this one. Under control. Falling out of formation. He won't be around much longer. Watch him. He's coming around.
Let's move out.
Returning to your position. I'll take care of this. Getting a lock.
Now,
Closing on target.
fortunately, as I start to stutter a bit, because I'm getting a little bit tired, I think I'm going to take a nap after all this. I need a nap. But this part is fairly straightforward. Super Star Destroyer, even if it starts losing some weapon blisters, which I think it is starting to do at this point. Nope. Still got half shields on this.
Engaging the enemy. Nowhere to go. I'm on this
We are still in a good position to
Watch him.
get this fight done. It's going to take a while only because, well, the Super Star Destroyer is very slow, and I can only shoot at so many targets at a time.
Getting a lock. Tightening up. Closing on
We've got
target.
them on
That, more than anything else, is the biggest problem.
Commencing.
We're being targeted.
Come on. And the fact that it keeps going off target, which is just freaking annoying.
Let's finish him.
I'm not asking for much, just stay on target, please.
Intercepting.
And when it even gets a little bit of firepower onto a target, it's just destroying it. It's just getting to that position that's the most annoying.
Our target priority is the laser cannons.
Target critical. Losing control. Taking him out.
Alright, let's see what else we can do here.
Engaging the enemy.
Yeah, that Venator is toast. That's another Imperial. Is that Imperial or Imperial 2? I can't tell.
Watch him. He's coming around. Returning to your position. Draw their fire. Excellent shot.
Our target priority is the laser cannons.
So just a couple of small ships and the shipyard, and we should be good. I can ignore the fighters, thankfully. At any point where ignoring fighters is a plan is a good day.
I can't touch position.
Let's see here. Yeah, see that Imperial Star Destroyer is just getting ripped a new one. To a much greater degree than the battlecruiser. It took 5 times as long to take down a battlecruiser. The battlecruiser is only twice the price of an Imperial Star Destroyer in Imperial 2, because Imperial 2 is worth 4 points, battlecruiser is worth 9.
Opening fire on the torpedo launchers.
Yeah, I'm not. The battlecruisers are just a wee bit unbalanced. So when I play this dependent star alignment, which I will for one of these maps, we will be using a lot of them.
Open fire.
And is that it?
Care of this.
There we go. All right. Almost completely lost our shields, but there you go. Now, the rest of my backup fleet finally makes it in. Might have gotten a little bit carried away with sending that Super Star Destroyer in before I sent in my support fleet, but I was making bad decisions at this point, so.
Constructing unit.
Star Destroyer reporting
Building
in.
started.
Alright, trying to remember what I send in at this point.
Reporting.
A lot of this is just building up the ground forces I need to take this planet, because right now all my other ground forces are kind of scattered all over the place.
Reporting.
So how do I speed this part up? Can I speed this part up? I'm looking at my options here. I think I could probably do a jump, but I also don't think I want to.
Reporting. Arrival imminent.
Now, more to the point, I think that we're getting close to the end of the episode here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it apart here. If the silence continues for a few more moments, folks, I do apologize. I'm just new at using this software here.
Brigade standing by.
I hope that this post-narration works out well. Do keep in mind I will not be doing it for a very long time. As I said, it's very difficult. But, ladies and gentlemen,
Reporting.
I will see you guys next time. Peace.